Good morning, fathers of daughters. This is Efrem Martin. I am 59 years of age, and I am a crow dad of 4 adult daughters, 36, 30, 26, and 24. Welcome to another live stream, Girl Dad YouTube channel. Bienvenidos, mi amigos, aquí, hoy, gracias. All right, fathers, we are back for another live stream with the Girl Dad YouTube channel. I welcome all fathers, regardless of your ethnic group, background, and or culture. You're always welcome here at Girl Dad YouTube channel. Okay, fathers, what we're going to be talking about today is the challenges of being a girl dad. Let me repeat that. The challenges of being a girl dad. Fathers of daughters, girl dads, we are here. I want to discuss what the challenges are because we have many challenges being girl dads, and I've got about 13 videos between 2 minutes and 10 minutes that I want to share with you today, and we're going to be sharing the experiences of being and the challenges of being a girl dad, fathers of daughters, because there are many. For those fathers that have daughters that are under 10 years of age, you're at a different stage. I've written a book, self-published a book rather. It's called Daddy's Girls. It's available at Amazon.com. You can get it through my YouTube channel. And fathers, what I do in my book is I cover the 3 stages of development that I call the 3 stages of development. Birth to 10 years of age, 11 to 13, and 14 to 18 years of age. And I cover those 3 stages in my book. It's about 34 pages long, fathers. It's a very easy read. It's good. And my book is complimentary of my live streams and my YouTube videos. They go hand in hand. So fathers, I would encourage you to purchase my book so you can have a full, broad understanding. And it'll make a lot more sense once you start watching my videos and how complementary my book and my videos go hand in hand. So fathers, the videos I want to cover today, we're going to be talking about back to school night, parent-teacher conferences. We're going to be talking about sex education. We're going to be talking about our daughters' mental health. We're going to be talking about teen violence with our daughters. Fathers, a while ago, I made a video called Allowing Our Daughters to Date Before 16 Years of Age Will Destroy Our Home. Fathers, I am a former state of Colorado juvenile probation officer. I worked in the criminal justice system for 20 years, and I also worked in K-12 education for 10 years. I'm a former teacher, restorative justice coordinator, and dean of students. So I have 30 years of working directly with children from all socioeconomic backgrounds and their parents, different classes of kids, different classes of parents. So fathers, raising 4 adult daughters and having the professional experience that I have, I know what I'm talking about here. So what I do on Grow Dad YouTube channel is I offer education through information with instruction. One of my many goals here is at Grow Dad YouTube channels is to help fathers understand the relationships that we must build, long-term sustainable relationships with our babies, with our baby girls. So fathers, I cover birth to 18 years of age, what our responsibilities are and what we need to do, what we should be expecting, what's coming for all fathers of daughters. My daughters are all professional women. They're all amazing women. I have a great relationship with all of my baby girls. And I could tell you the only reason that happened is because I was in their lives, birth to 18 years of age. And now that they're adult women, it's just amazing just to be able to hang out with them and just have them validate everything that I put in them. So I'm proud of all of my daughters. Love them women. They're awesome women. They're great women. They have great character. They have compassion. They have empathy. They're kind. They're amazing. So fathers, when we're talking about the challenges of being a girl dad, those are the challenges that I'm talking about. We're going to have many challenges, fathers. But what we need to do is we need to be on the forefront of those challenges, fathers. So what I want to do is I want to encourage all fathers, regardless of the stage of development that you are with your daughters, birth to 10, 11 to 13, or 14 to 18. There's always going to be challenges, right? And as long as we're in the forefront of those challenges, fathers, we're going to be okay. Our daughters are going to be okay. And they're going to see that we provide the protection and safety for them that they need in their lives. They're going to see that we are validating them on a daily basis. They're going to see that their fathers have their back. They're going to see that they have a father that could be their partner in crime, whether they're doing right, wrong, or indifferent. We're going to hold them accountable to doing right, wrong, or indifferent. We're going to show them love unconditionally, fathers. We're going to be their best advocates, fathers. We're going to let them know and show them that the world can't come at them and disrespect them and undermine them and not acknowledge them. These are the tools, fathers, that we build over the years. These are the tools that are necessary in order for our daughters to become successful young adults, young women, and adult women. So fathers, we have a lot on our plates. So what I always tell fathers, because I participate in a lot of man groups, enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride, because it goes fast. But as long as we're consistent fathers, birth to 18 years of age, our baby girls are going to be fine. They're going to be good women of character. They're going to have integrity. They're not going to take shit from little boys or men. They're not. Because if you have a father in your life, that's the difference between most of these little girls making it in life and having daddy issues in their life. Okay, fathers. So what I would like to do is I would like to get these videos started. The first 3 videos I'm going to show you, it's talking about elementary school. Well, the first video I'm going to show you, yes, the very first video I'm going to show you, I stand corrected, is going to show you elementary back to school night, and then we'll go into middle school. Once our daughters get to high school, it's up to each and one of you fathers how you want to deal with high school. Me, myself, once my daughters got to high school, I didn't do my high school. Let me explain what I mean by I didn't do high school. My daughters from kindergarten through K-8, they were consistent students. They never received a referral. They never had behavioral issues. They never talked back to adults. So they had a pattern of learning. They had a pattern of consistency. So by the time they got to high school, 9th through 12th grade, I was going to be there for them. But anything that came up, they needed to handle in high school because they had the tools. They were equipped because I was their best advocate, kindergarten, 8th grade. So that's what I mean, fathers, when I say I don't do high school. I didn't do high school. I didn't have to attend high school for my daughters, right? It's a totally different phase of development. Okay, fathers, let's take a look at these videos, and I need your minds. I need your hearts. I need you to process, and I need you to be aware. Okay, fathers, let's get into these videos.
school year, we are excited to be able to engage our families in new ways. And one of those ways that we are doing that is through our back to school night, and reimagining our back to school night.
La bienvenida a todos y a todas esta noche.
We have charged our building level leaders, our principals, and their administrative teams to be able to engage our families in a way that moves them from informing to empowering them.
One of the ways that Fairland reimagined back to school night was brainstorming ways that we can get our families into our school. So we looked at the barriers. Some of the barriers are trying to get home and feed your family and try to get out to back to school night. So we said, okay, we'll provide dinner. We had our teachers and staff interacting with our community because it's important for us to engage with one another and get to know each other. Did you get your mom? We also wanted to make sure there wasn't a language barrier. So we provided interpreters. We provided free daycare, and we wanted to make sure that our families were active participants. So we asked them questions about their children so that we can get to know them better from their perspective. So we're really excited that we were able to provide resources, an engaging night with our families, and make really true, trusting connections.
We had teachers and families sitting next to each other, and it was like nice to sort of have that sit down family meal in our cafeteria.
Y hay muchas cosas de qué hablar también.
When we think outside the box and reimagine things and we become more culturally responsive in our approach, right? Less structure, less bells, less you got to report here, you got to report there. I think you just get more of a community feel, and that's what we want at Watkins Mill. I want parents to just be able to walk in and feel like they're home.
When it came to reimagining what it meant to have back to school night, traditional sit, get a syllabus was not working for us. So we wanted to do something that was going to lure the community here.
So we started actually over at Watkins Mill Elementary for our school, and we opened our doors for them. They got to meet their teachers and see their classrooms. But then we shuttled them over here with MCPS buses. And now that they're here, there's so many partnerships here.
Capital Food Bank is here, giving out food to families who need it. We have a couple of barbers set up, giving free haircuts. We have the health department here offering free immunizations. We have lots of information from community partners.
I think this is awesome. I think this is the best back to school night I've been to. It's really comfortable. I'm meeting a lot of people. The food smells good, but it was great to go around and see the teachers and everybody interact.
Es muy bonito. Pueden venir mucho a divertirse los niños. It's really nice. It's wonderful. It's child friendly. Me gustaría que se vuelva a repetir. I would love this to be repeated this year and the next year and all the years.
Give me a second, fathers. I thought I had this next video ready, so it's not ready. Give me a second here. I'm getting it ready, fathers, so it could go. I apologize.
A year later.
Okay, fathers, this is video number 2.
Rockford Public Schools opened their doors on a new school year later this week. This evening, one middle school welcomed families back for a little early for a back to school night. Emery Wilder was there, and Emery, how was that turnout?
Marissa, there were hundreds of families at Flynn Middle School tonight. One teacher tells me this type of community buy-in is a huge aspect in education.
And this is that first day of really bridging that gap between the school and the community with our doors open and them coming in.
Jeff Emily teaches history at Flynn Middle School. The school held a back-to-school night in preparation for the upcoming school year. Emily believes this will make a huge difference in students' success.
It gives teachers the ability to put their hand out and meet the parents, meet the guardians of these students that we're going to be in the care of for 8 hours a day.
Heather Finney didn't miss the chance. Her daughter, Jasleen, is now a 7th grader. She says back to school time is no easier for parents.
Every time I leave my kids anywhere without me, it's always anxiety. But the faculty here is great, so I definitely trust Flynn. They're awesome.
Tuesday night's open house gave students the chance to meet teachers, walk the halls, and tie up any loose ends before the first day.
One thing that's new with the COVID stuff being lifted is that kids will actually be able to access and use their lockers this year. So that was a big fear of kids not being able to open their locks. So it gives them the opportunity to be here, open their lockers, experience that.
8th grade assistant principal Brandy Fago says the pandemic put a lot of strain on students, which is why they are starting something called Falcon Time this year.
For 35 minutes, they will be doing social and emotional lessons to kind of get them used to school. We are here for them and making sure they feel welcomed and safe.
Flynn also held its 3rd annual 6th grade boot camp a couple of weeks ago. It helps kids with the transition from elementary to middle school. Marissa?
Hi, Mrs. Kasuma. Come in.
Hello, Mrs. Harris.
Please sit down. So, we're here to talk about your daughter, Callie. She's doing well in class this year. I'd say she's particularly good at science.
That's good to hear. Callie loves looking at the stars.
Yes, she enjoyed the astronomy unit we did. I am a bit concerned about her reading, though. She needs extra practice.
Oh no, is it very bad?
No, it's not that bad. But if you can read with her every night at home, that would be very helpful.
Every night? But I'm so busy in the evenings. Sometimes I have to work late.
I understand. But if you could read with her for even 10 minutes a night, I think that would help. Do you think you can do that?
If it's just 10 minutes, yes, I can manage that, or her father can.
Great. Was there anything on Callie's report card that you were concerned about?
Oh, yes. I wanted to know why her grade is so low for class participation.
Well, as you know, Mrs. Kasuma, Callie is a very smart girl, but sometimes she doesn't listen very well or pay attention in class. That's why her grade is low.
She's a very energetic child and so smart.
She sure is. But I would appreciate you talking to her about trying to focus better and listen to me when I'm speaking. I think that would help her improve her grade.
Okay, I'll speak with her about it.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate it. Do you have any other questions or concerns about Callie that you'd like to talk about? We have plenty of time left.
I just want her to do well and be happy.
We want the same for her. I think with the extra reading and a little more attention paid in class, Callie will be just great.
I'm glad. Thank you very much. I don't have any more questions right now.
All right. Please call or email me if you ever want to ask anything else. Otherwise, we'll see you again in a couple of months.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you, Mrs. Harris.
Great to see you, Mrs. Kasuma. Take care.
Okay, fathers, what are your thoughts on those 3 videos? So fathers, having worked in K-12 education for a decade, I want to give you some further insight when it comes to back to school nights and parent-teacher conferences. So I want to give you some extra knowledge that will help you as a father of our daughters. When it comes to back to school nights, we need to be visible. We need to be present. Men being present will take our daughters to a whole different level. When other children see their fathers, it will help them understand that there is a man in the household. Okay. And also when it comes to back to school night and parent teacher conferences, both parents, it's both parents' responsibilities, not just the mothers. Too much of the burden is always placed on mothers, particularly when it comes to parent teacher conferences. Fathers, I do understand fathers work. And if there's a situation to where you can't make the parent teacher conference, I'm going to encourage you to set your own parent teacher conference yourself outside of the mothers. Yes, it's okay to get information from your wife, or if you're a divorced father, from your ex-wife. It is more beneficial for you to have your own parent teacher conference if you are not able to make one. Trust me, teachers will never tell you no at the elementary school level, middle school level. They are not going to tell you no. They are more than willing to meet with any father on a one-on-one basis. My daughters never had issues with the parent teacher conferences or back to school nights, because me and my ex-wife, we were both there. We were present there with our daughters. So I want to make it clear to you fathers who are married or who are divorced, when it comes to parent teacher conferences in particular, you need to make sure that you are hearing directly from the teacher. Don't leave it up to their mother, because that is unfair to their mother, and it could cause a lot of issues being on the same page. All right, fathers? Okay, fathers, this next video I'm getting ready to show you is going to be talking about teen violence, teen abuse, when it comes to fathers allowing their daughters to date before age 16. I would encourage you to look at that video that I've made. It's called Allowing Our Daughters to Date Before the Age of 16 Will Destroy Our Home. Okay? So make sure you watch that video, and it will explain exactly what I mean and why I say what I say. Any father that would allow his baby girl to have a boyfriend before the age of 16, you're going to reap what you sow if you allow that to happen. Okay? That's all I'm going to say. I did an entire video on allowing our daughters to date before the age of 16. Will wreck our homes, will destroy our homes. Okay? So feel free to look at that video. Okay, fathers, here's the next video.
So I met my boyfriend when I was in high school. Initially, the relationship was great, right? Like, I think what you hear most often is the honeymoon phase, where you're just so happy, you're in bliss. I will say for myself, there were definitely signs that were not right. 3 weeks into the relationship, he cheated on me, and there was no remorse. It was actually like he was frustrated that he got caught for cheating. He said a lot of horrifying things like, no one else is going to love you. If you leave me, then, good luck finding someone else to deal with you. And that's definitely not the kinds of comments you expect someone to say when they cheat on you, especially so early into a relationship. I don't know why I continued on in the relationship, but I think I was just so swept up by the honeymoon phase. We did fight weekly. Soon enough, the compliments that made me fall in love with him turned into passive aggressive insults. There were many violent bursts of anger. There was a lot of intimidation going on. I really like to emphasize that this was my first relationship. I had really no idea that this was kind of wrong. I thought that this was completely normal.
I think it's harder to recognize in teenage relationships because often it's the first relationship and you really haven't set the boundaries at that age. You don't know what to expect. You don't know really what a healthy relationship would look like. So it's really hard to set your boundaries and to not decide.
There's so many red flags, and I always recommend that people do a quick search on the internet. But a couple that I can think of is excessive jealousy, where they start forcing you to cut off friendships, relationships. They begin to isolate you. Another red flag is a lot of put downs where they start to wear down your self-esteem, and also this feeling of walking on eggshells that a lot of survivors talk about, where they're constantly cautious of what they say. They're afraid, they don't want to say something that might set off the abuser.
Silent treatment, ghosting as the young people call it these days. Threatening suicide is a big one that we see. If you leave me, I'll kill myself. I couldn't live without you. And all of that is just to maintain that control in relationships.
A lot of control around money, finances, physical abuse, online threats to post intimate photographs, post personal information.
There is not much we can do to stop someone from posting the pictures online. Posting the pictures online is illegal, but the threat to post them is also now illegal. So if someone's threatening you saying, I will post these pictures, or if you have genuine fear that they're going to post the pictures, contact the police and talk and report it, because there is stuff that can be put into place by the police to protect.
It started a lot with emotional and verbal abuse. I would always tell myself, the emotional and the verbal abuse isn't that bad. But if it ever were to become physical, then I would, of course, leave, right? One day it did become physical. And yet I stayed with him for another 1.5 years. I think the thing about abuse and being with an abuser is that it sounds so illogical to some people who have never been in an abusive relationship. But the thing I really want to emphasize to folks is that an abuser is just so good at changing your logic to the point where something like physical violence becomes so normal and something you just accept, especially with all the verbal and emotional abuse that they're putting you through, telling you, you're worthless, telling you no one else is going to love you, belittling you, disparaging you. Then when it becomes physical, well, you don't have a lot of self-empowerment, self-respect to then leave the relationship.
Why do people stay?
It's a good question, and we always say it's the wrong question, because what we're doing right there is we're putting the onus on the person that's staying, we're putting the onus on the victim. Perhaps what we should be asking is what might be their safest option? What's the alternative to this relationship? What would be their way out? How could they get out? And quite often their safest option is to stay. Rather than kind of picking on the victim, we might be asking a different question, which is, why is the controller or the abuser behaving that way? And maybe thinking about putting some accountability on them to change their behaviour rather than the victim to do all the work.
There were a lot of things and questions that my sister said. For example, why don't you just leave him? Was a big one. Like, I don't understand why you have no self-worth. She would say, do you not respect yourself enough to leave him? But I think what was missing from that conversation was that he had been really depleting any sense of self-worth and self-love for 3 years. And if you're hearing disparaging comments about yourself every single day for 3 years, absolutely, it's going to be hard to, garner enough of that and feel empowered to leave.
The best way to support somebody is to go at their pace, ask if they're okay, ask how they're doing, ask how they're feeling. Why have they stopped doing certain things? Why have they changed the behaviour? Is that their choice, or are they doing it to please somebody else? If you're going to support somebody, especially if it's somebody who's close to you, it can be really emotive and really difficult to do. So think about the support services that you can pull in. If you get some advice for yourself and some support for you to help someone else, that can be really useful. There's a solution-focused question that we've used for a long time, and it just asks you this question. If you woke up tomorrow morning and everything in your world was good, then what would have changed? And if you ask people that, it really gets them to think about, what is good in my life? What do I need to change? What might need to go? So it's a dead simple question, but it can be used in any format. We love it for those abusive relationships as well.
I think just listen without advice. Usually when people first disclose, they're not looking for people to tell them what to do. When your dignity has been stripped away when you're in a relationship, the last thing that you need is for someone to start then controlling you in another way. So it's just remembering, don't say, well, you have to break up with them, because that's not going to help. You need to be there to listen, to see what they want, and to just really make sure that their voice is being heard in that situation. I think practical advice, reach out to your safeguarding teams if you're in education, for example, or even in employment, HR, and make sure that people are aware that there's something going on, just in case anything escalates, that there's a safety plan in place. So a safety plan is usually on a piece of paper. It's knowing where you're going to go, who you're going to call, having all of those emergency things in place. Do you know where your passport is? Do you know where your documents are? Do you know where your keys are at all times? Do you have your phone on you? What if something happens? You need to be able to call the emergency services if something does happen. Survivors know when it's the safest time to leave. Leaving a domestic abuse relationship is the highest risk that you will be in once you've left that partner. And that's why it's important to think of everything and to trust the survivor. If they're saying that they're not ready to leave, trust them, support them, because you pulling them out of that situation could be the trigger for something awful to happen. I think giving ultimatums is the worst thing you can do to support someone in that situation. If you're saying, well, you have to leave them or I'm not going to be your friend anymore, that's another support line that is lost, and it's further isolating that person. Giving ultimatums is taking away that person's choice. And it's really important for survivors of domestic abuse and sexual violence that they have that choice and they have their freedom to go about it the way that they want to, and to stay safe, basically.
Ever since I've explained, why these comments are so harmful, and I think a lot of people who are supporting survivors should really try to shift mindset into asking, like, how can I support you? Instead of, why didn't you leave in the first place? I think it starts really small, and then you start justifying the bigger things. He would often leave me stranded in places. We would be at the library, we would get in a fight, he'd raise his voice, I'd tell him, like, you can't raise your voice in a public space, and then he'd leave me stranded there, and I'd have to, figure out a way to get home. And then I would take the bus or walk all the way back to his home, and he would always open the door. It was that kind of justification. Well, at least he opened the door for me, right? There were a lot of justifications when it came to physical violence that I was enduring. At least it wasn't as bad that it left a bruise, or at least I didn't have to call the police. All these justifications. Basically, every time something violent would happen, I would say, well, I've already put so much time and effort into this relationship. What's another broken promise? What's another pushed boundary?
I think offenders offend because it's the lowest common denominator. It's the easiest way is to control somebody in a relationship rather than to work towards making that relationship equal. An equal and loving relationship takes a lot of hard work. They do it because they can. They do it because we've had a society of years gone by that said it's okay to do that. And just as we've said, we only ever ask people why they stay. We never ask people why they do it.
It was around 2 years into the relationship, I started seeing a therapist. The therapist sat me down. She asked me the standard clinical questions. After a while, she looked at me, and for the first time, I heard the words, "Your boyfriend is abusive." I had always known deep inside that this was not right. To have someone else observe my comments, observe my answers, and say, hey, this is not right, your boyfriend is abusive, was life-changing for me. That's when I felt like I could start identifying these behaviors as abusive and start to label him as an abusive person.
If somebody's experienced a prisoner of war camp, it's an awful situation to be in, and they really need time to recover and they really need a lot of support and dignified support at that. For abused women, they've been through a very similar psychological process, but we don't treat them the same way.
So the abuser who may watch this, what advice would you give to them?
Take accountability is the number one. Recognize what you're doing is wrong and make sure that you're listening to the survivor's voice, because what they're saying is the most important thing you can listen to right now. There are specific perpetrator programs. We have one at Staying Put called Maze that you can sign up for, and it will teach you about healthy relationships and how to change behaviors. A lot of it is just not saying, oh, I have anger management issues, because domestic abuse is not the result of anger management. There are so many perpetrator programs out there where you can get advice from people that aren't there to judge you or to tell you off or to ring the police. Just make sure that the survivor is who you're centering and who you're listening to.
You've got to admit it to yourself that you're doing these harmful behaviours and you want to change. So change has to come from within.
I had to consider, like, what were my next steps, basically. I visited him in college as a surprise trip, and that's when I found out he cheated on me again. And I had asked him, like, what is it about her, the woman that he cheated on me with, that, you know, made you do that? Because I wanted to try and understand. And the thing he said, you know, I will always remember to the day I die. He told me, she makes me happy. And that was just so heartbreaking for me. I was just so saddened after hearing that, because I had done everything in my power to make him happy. You know, I had broken countless promises to myself. I had crossed multiple boundaries. But I think at a certain point, I had to really consider, is the 3 years I've been with him enough for me to then leave and live the rest of my life? And can I endure this abuse for years and years and years, decades even, if I wanted to continue being with him?
If somebody recognises that they're in an abusive relationship, you need to tell somebody first. Somebody that you trust, somebody that's going to help you either access support, somebody you can offload to about what's happening and just reflect back and say, yeah, that is abusive. Once you've spoken to somebody about what's happened or what you feel is happening to you, then help can be put in place as soon as possible.
A lot of media shows that a survivor leaves after some huge altercation. The more common pattern that I see is that they just get tired and they leave, and that's it. Every morning he would text me, wake up, and the disparaging comments would start. And I thought to myself, like, is this really the way I want to live the rest of my life? We were texting and he says, I want to break up. And I was like, oh, okay, well, and he had been saying that for a while, but he never really had the courage to do it. And it was really just a manipulation tactic for me to be like, no, please don't leave, etc. And I told myself, like, Angela, you have broken so many promises to yourself. You have crossed over so many boundaries for this person. And he's telling you right now that he doesn't want to be with you anymore, that some other woman makes him happier than you have ever made him. So I told myself, I'm going to say, are you sure? Are you sure you want to leave me? And if he says yes, then that's it. No, out of all the promises you've broken, like, please at least keep this one, keep this last promise. So I asked him, do you want to leave? And he said yes. And that was it for me. I ignored all of his thousands of calls and thousands of text messages, his attempts to see me and all of that. And I never spoke to him again. But looking back now, you know, as an older person, I realized that there's over 7 billion people in the world, right? And just give yourself that chance to be loved properly, to be loved fully, and to be loved with the respect that you deserve. It doesn't have to end with this person. You don't need to get married to this person. You don't need to think about forever with this person, and that there's always going to be someone out there who is going to want to love you in a way that you've always wanted to be loved. There's a really great US-based website called Love is Respect, and it focuses solely on teenage dating violence. I've built a lot of curriculum for, you know, presentations and and trainings on recognizing red and green flags, building healthy relationships. And I've gotten a lot of my material from Love is Respect. They have a lot of really great resources for specifically preteens and teenagers. So I really recommend that you check that out. Love is Respect.
Trust your gut instinct. If you feel that it's wrong, it probably is wrong. And please ask for support, because if people don't know about what's happening, then they can't help you.
It's important that you believe yourself. If something doesn't feel right, then it's not right usually. And reach out. There's places like Stay In Put that will be able to talk to you or give informal advice or even training if that's what you're requiring.
You know, take some time to be with yourself. Take some time to really find yourself again, and that, you know, you don't have to rush into the next relationship. It's totally valid to be afraid to start a new relationship after enduring various forms of abuse from someone you loved. That was not love. I'm sure it felt like love, 100%, but that was not love, because you don't abuse people that you love. There's a whole world of support open for you when you're ready, you know, personal circles, professional circles, outside agencies, social media platforms. When and if you do feel ready for a relationship, just know that there will be people who will respect you and love you exactly as you are. And even if you're not ready for a year, 3 years, 10 years, that's totally fine. Healing looks very different for people. When and if you are ready, just know that not everyone is evil. Know that not everyone is out there to hurt you and harm you and abuse you.
Okay, fathers, what are your thoughts? I felt that when I came across this documentary when I was doing my research, I needed to share it with fathers of baby girls, because it's very insightful and it's something that most fathers just need to sit down and process. This is one of the many challenges as girl dads, as fathers of daughters, that we are going to have raising our baby girls and being in relationships. So fathers, like I said, I've already made a video called Allowing Our Daughters to Date Before the Age of 16 Will Destroy Our Homes. I'm going to encourage all you fathers to watch that video. I go a lot deeper into teen violence and what represents teen violence through the lens of the criminal justice system. Okay, fathers? All right, fathers, these next 3 videos I'm about to share with you are going to be talking about teen pregnancy and sex education. Okay, let me get them set up. Excuse me.
Today we're going to talk about adolescent pregnancy. Adolescent pregnancy, a result of multiple factors beyond just the obvious lack of timely birth control. The teenage birth rate in the United States across racial and ethnic groups declined continuously between 1991 and 2005. Although it increased a little bit between 2005 and 2007, it decreased to really low levels, historic low levels, between 2007 and 2019, largely related to increased contraceptive use and increased use of highly effective methods of contraception. Unfortunately, racial disparities related to social determinants of health, for example, how access to health care is available, continue to be an important issue, as the birth rate in Hispanic teens and non-Hispanic Black teens was approximately twice that of non-Hispanic white teens. The birth rate in American Indian and Alaska Native teens was approximately 2.5 times that in non-Hispanic white teens. Mental health disorders like major depression, bipolar disorder, or psychotic disorders appear to also be an important risk of pregnancy among teenagers. Approximately 19% of women aged 15 to 19 who have sexual intercourse become pregnant. Many pregnancies among teenagers are unintended. About 50% of those who get pregnant did not use any method of contraception before the pregnancy. 24% because the partner did not want them to use contraception, which is a concern. 31% believe they could not get pregnant at the time, which is also concerning. And 13% actually had trouble trying to get contraception. And very interestingly, 22% actually did not mind getting pregnant. An important factor in adolescent pregnancy is the age gap with respect to the partner. Approximately 1 in 5 infants born to adolescents were fathered by men 5 or more years older than the mother. Interestingly, some adolescents perceive positive consequences of pregnancy or childbearing and actually want to be pregnant. In a national survey, nearly 1/5 of the girls responded that they wanted to get pregnant, and another 1/5 that they didn't mind being pregnant. Other adolescents may feel stigmatized by the pregnancy, and this is associated with multiple factors, including white race, ethnicity, not being in a legal common law relationship or engaged to the baby's father, having feelings of isolation, aspirations to complete college, experiencing verbal abuse or being fearful of being hurt by other teenagers, and experiencing family criticism. Very sadly, suicidal ideations happen in 5 to 14% of women during pregnancy, in adolescence, and the postpartum period. And teenagers are at a greater risk than older women to complete suicide. Although in many cases, adolescent pregnant women can endure and go through the pregnancy, there are increased difficulties and complications that may arise for them. Some go on to carry their pregnancies while others will not. Approximately 25% of pregnancies in adolescents, less than 20 years of age in the United States, are terminated electively. 15% result in miscarriages, and actually 61% result in a birth. The pregnancy termination rate among adolescents is lower than observed in 1990, when it was about 34%, and represents approximately 1/5 of all abortions performed in the United States. Adolescents are at an increased risk for adverse pregnancy outcomes, such as preeclampsia, which is elevated blood pressure in the pregnancy, preterm birth, and fetal growth restriction, which is an unusual slow growth of the baby, and later on, infant deaths. Postpartum depression is a very concerning issue, as adolescent mothers are at risk. Reported rates of postpartum depression in adolescents range from 7 to 37%. This is mostly increased during the first 3 months after delivery, which is very concerning too. Adolescent parenthood is challenging, and it does not refer only to the female teenager who bears the child. Family and social support are crucial to reducing the adverse social and financial outcomes associated with adolescent parenthood. For the mothers, they're less likely to receive a high school diploma. Although 7 out of 10 adolescent mothers complete high school, they're less likely than women who delay childbearing to go on to college and have additional education. Mothers are more likely to live in poverty and receive public assistance for long periods. And they are also at risk for intimate partner violence. On the side of the adolescent father, they tend to finish fewer years of schooling than older fathers. They're more likely to earn less income, and they're less likely to have a job. But there are also consequences for the child, as children born to adolescent parents are more likely to have health and cognitive disorders. They're more likely to have poor academic performance and repeat a grade or drop out of high school later on in life. And they're more likely to be neglected or abused. In fact, also, female children are more likely to have an adolescent pregnancy in the future. and males seem to have a higher rate of incarceration. So preventing adolescent pregnancy requires not only successful programs at the school and community levels, it is also important that parents understand that it is important and necessary to implement a combination of interventions that provide clear and thorough sexual education, not only focusing on delaying sexual activity in young teens, but also promoting the consistent and correct use of effective birth control. We, as parents, have a big responsibility trying to minimize the risk of adolescent pregnancy for our children. Let's understand that these conversations need to happen and should not be avoided. About the issue of adolescent pregnancy in the United States, let's remember this. There are racial disparities that need to be addressed. Up to 19% of adolescent women become pregnant. Adolescent pregnancies have an increased risk of adverse outcomes. Suicidal ideation can be sadly present in up to 14% of adolescent pregnant patients. And finally, adolescent pregnancy affects the mother, the father, and the child.
My wonderful audience, welcome. Thank you. And on this profile, I noticed that I have a lot of male folks in my page. And today I want to talk about something that concerns all of us. You, the fathers, you, the male folks. How do you, as a male figure, help your teen children or your young girls to stay away from teen pregnancy? Teenage pregnancy is at the increase. As you know, this page will create family-oriented content. I'm an advocate of sex education. I coach teen. I teach teenagers. I create family-oriented content. We interact on a daily basis on how we motivate ourselves. We see how we can push ourselves to crush our goals. How can you help your teen children to stay away from teenage pregnancy? So fathers, how can you be involved? One way you can be involved is be present in your teenager's life, be it a boy, be it a girl. Not just when they are teenagers that you want to be present in their life. From when they are very little, be a good father. Be there for them. Try as much as possible to be involved in parenting. You can be very busy. A busy nature of life can throw us off balance, but I want you to balance. Balance it up with your family activities. So be present in their life. Know what is happening around them. See how you can be a good communicator to them. See how you can be involved in their everyday life. That way, you can be their first friend, you can be their hero, you can be their first date, you can be their first lover, you can be their support system. You provide emotional support, physical support, and every other support they needed in life. So they will not go and look for succor in another person's arm that will lead to teen pregnancy. Be there. Number two, be their first teacher. Educate them. That's why we are on this page giving you some topics that helps our parents, a parental guide to helping your teenagers to avoid teenage pregnancy. If you have been following the topics we place here, most of them are trending topic that is happening around teenagers and preteens. So if you're able to follow us, read this topic, have a discussion with them with your teenagers or your preteens, it will be a good thing. So stay glued to the page and see topics you can use to help your teenagers. So secondly, teach them, be their first teacher. Educate them on good and succeed. Educate them on healthy relationship. Educate them on love and support. Educate them on sex education. Educate them in self-confidence, self-worth. Let them know that they are their best self and they are their best version. So that's number 2, what fathers can do. Number 3 is this stereotype kind of thing that a girl child should be let to be married off, or they can just look for their life somehow, somewhere. No. Know that every child is a child and everyone has the right to be taken care of and be educated. So as much as you will take care of your boys, take care of your girls, be there for them. Yes, be there for them. Always watch out for them. Educate them, sex education wise. Educate them in real life. Educate them to be to be proud of themselves. Build their self-confidence. Help them to be emotionally stable. Give them healthy life. Make sure that they are healthy. Thirdly, provide for them financially, emotionally, mentally, and otherwise. A girl that is not well provided for will look for provision somewhere. So make sure that you provide for them. Provide for them. It's important. They need provision. A teenage girl needs to buy her sanitary pad. They need to buy underwears. They need to smell well. They need good moisturizers. They need pocket money. Just help them to understand how to budget. Help them to understand simple financial literacy. They will use your money well. They won't squander it if you're a good educator and you have planned things well for them. Okay, so don't be afraid they are going to waste it. What is it that somebody else wants to give to them if you are there to give it to them? Help them to live within their means and what you can provide. So provide for them financially. Then, encourage healthy friendship. Encourage healthy friendship. Let me ask, how many of your teens' friends do you know? How many of their parents do you know? How many of their home backgrounds do you know? Your parenting style, does it harmonize with their friends' parenting style? Do their friends influence them for good or for bad? Do you know who they hang out with? Do you communicate and know who their friends is? Do you know your children's goals? Do you know the value they adhere to? These are things you get to know. So as a parent, don't leave it to chance. Don't leave it for default. Be a proper guide. So fathers, we are looking at ways you can help us reduce teen pregnancy. We've talked about you being involved in their life. We talk about you providing physically. We talk about you giving education. You can include comprehensive sex education, very important. And we are here talking about encouraging healthy friendship. So know their peers, know their friends, and set boundaries around it. Then promote self-worth and self-confidence in your children. Teach them their self-worth. Don't be the one to insult the hell out of their life. Don't make them look worthless. Don't make them look unworthy. Praise them. Correct when needed. Help them to build their self-confidence. Teach by your example. Be a good role model. And then the next one I want to talk about is set goals, future goals with your children. When was the last time you asked your children what they want to become in the future? And how have you sat down to help them plan how these future goals can be met? When was the last time you called them and say, this is what I'd like for you to do? I don't know what you want for yourself. If it aligns with what you want for yourself, let's see how we set goals. Let's not parent on default. Set goals, futural goals for your children. If your children, your teenage girls, have a goal before them, it's like a football team. Their aim as a team is to go win the match. If the goal of your teenage girls is to go crush their goals and meet their futural goals, they are going to set their mind at that and leave other vices. So set futural goals with your children. Okay, see how you break them down as the day goes by, as the year goes by. See how you set it and see how you crush it. When you crush it, appraise them and move to the next goal you have set, and assist them in any way possible can help them grow healthily. So parents, fathers particularly, are those I'm addressing on this video. Please help us reduce teenage pregnancy. Is an increase, and the faults are going to the mothers. You did not take care of your child. Fathers, where are you? Are you doing your part? Do your part, and let's leave the remaining one for the children. If they go wayward, we know that is how it has gone. But if you've done your part and it's played well, all things being equal, it might play out in a positive way. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being part of us today. Share the video if you think other fathers can benefit from it. If you like what we do, keep reading our posts, keep watching our videos. I'll see you in the next.
Okay, so first of all, you need to understand there are some problems that are related to teenagers having sex. First is teenage, especially girls. Teenage girls, bodily, they are still not ready for sexual intercourse. They're just not ready. What are we worried about? We are actually worried about infection. Number one, you need to understand our uterus. You see, uterus is a very unique organ in the sense that there is a passage from outside to inside that goes all the way into the tubes, the ovaries, and into their tummy. Inside, we call the abdominal cavity, which is into the tummy. There is a passage. So if you think about it, anything can go through this passage, right? Bacteria, virus, parasites, worms, anything can just go in and go inside your body. But why is it that more often than not, we don't face this problem? Most women, they have sexual intercourse, but they do not get infection inside, in the sense that the bacteria or the virus doesn't go all the way into the uterus, the ovaries, the tubes, into our bowel, goes up to our liver. It doesn't. Why? Because in our uterus, there is actually a passage. There is actually we call a plug at the cervix, just as at the inlet into the uterus. There is a plug, and this plug actually blocks the infection from going in. So when you never had sex before, like most young girls and teenagers, there's no infection outside the uterus and the vagina. That means there's no bacteria, viruses, or even worms, or even parasites that stays in the vagina. There's none. It's so clean, it's so pure. The only thing they have is probably some of the good probiotics that are living inside the vagina. But when you have sexual intercourse, then all this infection actually gets into the vagina. For a mature woman, adult women in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, these bacteria and viruses and parasites and worms or whatever, they will just stay in the vagina. They rarely go in. It's because the uterus is mature enough to block all this infection from getting in. So you have a uterus that totally blocked. Nothing can go in. But for teenagers, this mechanism is still not formed. So the infection, especially bacteria, they can go in through the cervix, into the uterus, into the fallopian tube, into the ovaries. And once it gets there, it can go to the bowel, it can go to the bladder, it can go anywhere in your entire tummy. It can go up to the liver, the stomach, and the whole tummy can get infected. And the thing is, Because all these bacteria, when they infect you, you don't know. You don't know what you will feel. What do women feel when they get this infection that goes all the way in? They feel maybe tummy bloated, a lot of gas. And if you go and see a GP, you know, my tummy very bloated and a lot of gas. And if it's a teenager, you know, a lot of times the GP will just treat it as maybe you got gastric, because teenagers a lot get gastric. So I'll give you some gastric medicine. So because they get gastric medicine, these bacteria continue to stay inside them and they don't get treated. So the infection stays inside them for months and months and months, and it causes more and more and more damage to the uterus, the tubes, the ovaries, all the way up to the liver, the stomach. And somehow, our own body, of course, we have our own immune system. So after a couple of months, most of these bacteria, our body will settle. We will kill all the bacteria and we are over with it. But unfortunately, the damage has been done. And what does it do? I mean, what does this damage do? Does it cause any problem? Yes. What is it? It can cause blockage of tubes. The main thing in these women are unable to get pregnant when they one day wish to get pregnant. Because teenagers, when they have sex, they're not thinking about pregnancy. But one day, they will want to get pregnant. And by that time, when they want to get pregnant, they will find out, hey, my tubes are blocked. Hey, I cannot get pregnant. Even my tubes are not blocked. Even if your tubes are not blocked, the damage around the tube, around the ovary, can also cause the lady unable to get pregnant when they are much later. Because once the damage is done, it's permanent. So usually it will cause adhesions around the tubes, around the ovaries, as well as it can cause hydrocephalus. So all these things, the damage is permanent. If you're talking about adhesions, it's still fine. You can do a surgery and solve it. But if you're talking about hydrocephalus, there's no way you can change it back to normal. Because you must understand the tubes go and catch ovary. The tubes go and catch the ovary. In the tube, this area, there's actually a lot of fine little hair that help the egg to move, help the sperm and guide the sperm and the egg to move within the tube. And all this infection over the months spoil all these fine little hairs inside. And as a result, the tube can either be blocked, or even if it's not blocked, it may not be able to function well anymore. And this effect is permanent. There's no medication or surgery to reverse this situation. So as I say, many teenagers are not aware because probably nobody talks about it. But they do not know that because they have sex when they're teenage, some of this problem is lifelong. Is there a way to prevent all this infection? Of course, we will say best is not to have sex. But the other way actually is to use condom, to make sure the boy uses condom during sexual intercourse. Sometimes as a parent, we like to tell them what's right and what's wrong, but teenagers is the most rebellious phase of our life. All of us have been teenagers. We know how rebellious we were. But the thing is, we still need to let them know, just in case they have to know about this thing that can happen to them, that can cause lifelong problem, irreversible.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shefali Tyagi. I'm the gynecologist and obstetrician working in Cloud9, Belendur branch. Teenage pregnancies are high risk because teenage girls are themselves in the process of development. They are not fully developed. Their bone structure is not that strong. Their pelvis is not that strong. Plus, the deficiencies of vitamins and iron is rampant. So in case these young girls become pregnant, the chances of having a very healthy baby will be on the lower side. The complications can be high if you are a teenage mother. The chances that you will develop that pregnancy-induced hypertension or the blood pressure in pregnancy is very high. The baby's growth can be poor. The birth weight of the baby can be on the lower side. The chances that you will have anemia or low blood count can be really high. And during labor also, the complication rate will be higher because it might be difficult for you to deliver through normal route, and it might be difficult to go through the process of labor because you are yourself not that mature as far as the pain tolerance is concerned. So it is very important to have a healthy baby. You should yourself be of adequate age before you plan your pregnancy. Otherwise, please use precautions.
Okay, fathers. Excellent videos speaking about teen pregnancy and sex education. All right, fathers, we got to be in the forefront of all of this. This is a responsibility. These are the challenges that happen when you are a father of daughters, when you are a girl dad. Okay, fathers, I have several other videos that I want to share with you. These next series of videos that I'm going to share with you, fathers, are going to be talking about teenagers and STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. So these next couple videos are going to be talking about STDs, fathers. Let me get them set up for you.
The following program contains mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
According to half of all new sexually transmitted diseases reported each year are among young people aged 15 to 24. So how can we talk to our teens about their sexual health? And what if an STD paid them a visit? Take a look.
Hey Siri, why is it hard for a boy to pee?
Why are we on alert for bees? You mean killer bees? This is what I found.
No, not why are we on alert for bees?
Why do you like beans? I found this on the web. Check it out.
No. Alexa, why does it hurt to pee?
Girl, he's got gonorrhea.
Who are you?
Well, I'm Gary Gonorrhea. And he's got that bacteria, Neisseria gonorrhea, aka that.
Good stuff. Juan Escobedo, welcome to the show. He is the writer and director behind multiple short films aimed at teens to promote sexual health and wellness, and he joins us today. Welcome, Juan.
Hey, Juan.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here.
Juan, classic cringe-worthy.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Gary Gonorrhea, Lydia Chlamydia, and Poppy Papilloma. How and why did you get into making short films about sexual health for teens?
In the nonprofit world, there was a grant for HIV prevention, and we needed to implement a curriculum that was evidence-based for ages 12 to 24 in the East LA Pomona community. And one of the things that we had to do was implement the curriculum and also come up with environmental strategies. And one of the environmental strategies was to do PSAs. And so we decided to do PSAs, but I said, let's not do PSAs in the traditional way that you see them on TV. Let's create vignettes. Let's create short films with characters, with catchy names that will stay in the mind and people will remember. And so we came out with Lydia Chlamydia, Gary Gonorrhea, and Poppy Papilloma.
Well, it's a visual that's hard to forget, and you're sending such a powerful message that I think is relatable to that age group that you're targeting.
Exactly. You know, one of the things that I learned early on is that through comedy, you're able to educate. First entertain and then educate. And that has been my experience for the past 20 years working with youth. One of the things that comedy does, it also breaks the ice.
Yeah.
And it starts those conversations with your parents or parents with kids. And it creates a safe environment where you're laughing, but at the same time, you want to tackle these issues with your kids.
What do you want the main takeaway to be for teens and adults who see the films?
That it's important to have those conversations, but most important is for the parents and the kids to talk about STDs. And I don't mean in a preachy way. I don't mean, I hear parents sometimes say, "Oh, you can talk to me anytime." No, I mean creating a safe space where the parents are there, they're present, and the teens feel comfortable being in their presence and talking to them about STDs.
And Juan, Dr. O, we're in it, so we know the numbers. Before the folks at home understand, STIs are at an all-time high in this country for the 6th year in a row. Every year, there are 25 million new infections, and half of those are in our 15 to 24-year-olds, right? They're in our young people. So it's a conversation that needs to be had. It's a conversation that needs to be had very, very directly. And it kind of grosses kids out because they don't like to think that mom and dad at one time ever did it. So they don't want to talk about it.
Exactly.
Right?
It's embarrassing for them. Yeah.
It's embarrassing. So, hey, put it on the calendar. Hey, kids, Friday night at 8, you know what we're going to do? We're going to have a sex talk. And then you can be very, very matter of fact. There's no shame in it. Hey, kids, a couple things I just want to let you know. And they can put they can go earmuffs all they want. Keep talking because they're going to be listening.
Juan, thanks so much. Thanks for joining us here today. We can't wait to see what comes up next. Keep up the good work.
Thank you both very much. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
April is STI. April is STI Awareness Month, or sexually transmitted infection. Now, almost half of new infections involve young adults and teens. Our health reporter, Haley Hernandez, is here with what every parent of a teenager needs to know. Haley, good morning.
Hey, thanks, Owen. So joining us now live is Dr. Janina White. She is the Deputy Local Health Authority for the Houston Health Department. Dr. White, thanks so much for agreeing to talk to us live this morning. I will add that, a challenge for a lot of young people is that these infections might not cause any symptoms. So what's your advice for the only way that somebody can know for sure if they have an STI?
So good morning. Thank you for having me. And actually, you're correct. This is National STD Awareness Month. And we know that these STIs are impacting our youth more than any other group hardest hit. So that's ages 15 to 24 for people who are really hardest hit. And what we want young people to understand is many of these infections really don't have any symptoms. So the best way to know if you are at risk is to really think about prevention and go get tested. So knowing your STD status or knowing your HIV status is very important.
Can you tell us, based on what you see in Houston with the Houston Health Department, what are some of the most common STIs that people can get?
So we know STIs are passed from one person to another person from having sex. And what we see are chlamydia, gonorrhea, herpes, human papillomavirus or that HPV, syphilis, as well as HIV.
Yeah, we'll leave those up because I don't think that will surprise anybody, but those are still quite common. What are some examples, though, if somebody doesn't get these treated, what are some of the complications that can arise?
So certainly we know that individuals that may have a sexually transmitted infection are more likely to get or transmit HIV. So it's important to know your status with regards to STIs. And we also know some complications of sexually transmitted infections, particularly chlamydia, may have a woman more at risk to be unable to get pregnant.
And on that topic, can you tell people what they can do or what they should do to avoid getting an infection?
So everyone has a different perspective on their preventive risk. And so certainly you want to think about, the number of partners that you may have. You want to think about the use of a condom, using it correctly. You want to talk to your partner and know if your partner has any sexually transmitted infections or their HIV status. You want to know your status. You want to know your risk for sexually transmitted infections as well as your HIV status. So you really want to have a frank conversation with your partner, have a frank conversation with your physician, and really talk to your physician about your risk and what tests you should get for your relative risk of infections. You also really want to think about what we call PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis treatment, or post-exposure, we call that PEP, post-exposure prophylaxis treatment, with regards to your risk for HIV.
Yeah, there's no harm in knowing, because those are very effective, safe drugs out on the market now. And so, yeah, as you mentioned, you want to know your status, and some things don't have symptoms, so you need to get tested in order to find out if you have anything. Where can you go to get tested, specifically for people who might not be able to afford it? Are there options for people to get tested without that financial barrier?
Absolutely. Here at the Houston Health Department, we have clinics. So you would want to call our numbers 832-393-5427. 832-393-5427, and call and see what clinic is nearest to you. And we're happy to have you come in and get an evaluation, whereby we actually offer a free STD counseling and testing.
Free, we like that. I am assuming, though, if you call that number, that you're probably going to have to make an appointment.
Absolutely.
All right, Dr. White, thank you so much for joining us. That's Dr. Janina White with the Houston Health Department. And you can check out this interview on clicktohouston.com/seen@7 to see more.
Okay, fathers. Excellent videos. Excellent videos. My YouTube channel, Fathers, is all about educating and helping fathers understand our sense of urgency that we must have and take with our baby girls. So all the videos that are shared with you today, fathers, they're all in the description. There's about 13 of them. Okay. All right, fathers, I have these last few videos, and then I'm going to wrap up this live stream. And these next videos are going to be talking about our daughter's mental health. Okay, fathers, let me get them set up.
May is Mental Health Awareness Month, a time when advocates urge those who may be struggling to reach out for help.
We've talked a lot about how the coronavirus pandemic has pushed Americans into a mental health crisis. One 2021 study shows the pandemic significantly affected mental health of teen girls. So how can we help? Morning anchor and health reporter Kirsten O'Connor is standing by now to ask a doctor.
Ask a Doctor is sponsored by Conviva Primary Care for Seniors.
So consequences stemming from the pandemic have been tremendous. We all know that. And disconnection from kids that are in school or friends, changes to routine, of course, isolation, partly to blame. So here now to talk about mental health, specifically with teen girls, is Dr. Monica Barreto, a clinical psychologist with Orlando Health. Thank you for being here with us. This is a very important month to highlight mental health, and that's what you're committed to. That's your whole career.
It is. Thank you for having me. This is a really important topic to talk about, bring light to, so we can support both our teen girls as well as parents who are trying to support them as much as they can.
And parents of girls in general. I mean, my daughter is only 15 months old, but it is alarming to hear that girls are being affected disproportionately, at least in the statistics that we're seeing from the pandemic. So what can you say about your conversations with teen girls and maybe where some of that is coming from?
Yes, like we've been talking a lot of, yes, it's impacting boys as well, but we're seeing it a lot more females tend to internalize a lot of stressors, kind of keeping those things in, maybe not communicating as much, and withdrawing. And especially we're seeing more depression and a lot of anxiety and a lot of avoidance of school and social situations, which is interesting because those were kind of taken away with COVID, and kind of returning to them has been pretty anxiety provoking for a lot of teens.
So when you talk about avoidance, what does that look like to a parent?
Yes. So a good example, when we think about what causes the things that make us uncomfortable, nervous, we tend to naturally avoid, like we would a hot stove. We feel the heat, we pull away. Naturally, it's protective. Things that can be avoided a lot by teens are school or social settings or being around peers, things that they're questioning. What if I make a mistake? Worrying about tests. And for a lot of teens, getting caught back up with academics after the pandemic, or a lot of kids who have been sick, is a big stressor very recently.
And so are they calling out of school, or what are some of the things that parents are telling you, and then you're thinking, okay, this may be anxiety?
Yeah, sometimes getting them to school is the hardest thing, getting them to get up. Sometimes this may look like somatic symptoms, which means headaches or stomach aches or feeling really nauseous. Sometimes, it's always important to make sure there's nothing wrong, making sure we see RGI, we see neuro if we're getting headaches, and seeing, is this something that anxiety may be playing a part in?
And is it pretty easy to diagnose?
Often I usually get those referrals once they have seen GI or neurology. We're like, the body's looking good, but we're having some trouble with nerves. We're having some trouble getting to school, staying in school. And there, the key thing is first letting them know what's happening and why it's happening, and helping them get the tools to manage the nerves and getting them back to their day-to-day at school.
Let's say that you're a parent who already knows that your child suffers from some anxiety or depression, and you're trying to navigate these big life events with them. They're going back to school. Maybe they have grad bash, or they have, some of these exciting life events coming up, and you don't want them to miss out, but they're feeling that anxiety. What's something you can tell them to help them work through that?
Yes. What I tell parents and teens often, anxiety takes us two ways, either worrying about what has happened or what's worrying about what is going to happen. Helping them regulate their breathing, coming back to right now, this moment, and what can we control? Calming our nerves and problem solving if there is something that they're worried about. My friends aren't going to go, well, let's ask them. Prom's coming. A lot of teens don't want to go by themselves, but are really nervous about bringing the topic up with friends. So helping them bring them back to right now and help them problem solve if they need that support.
And then in worst case scenarios, let's say a teen really is in crisis. What should a parent do to help that teen? What are some warning signs that they need to look out for?
Some big warning signs is some of these patterns. Sometimes the child may be a little bit more nervous before an exam, or nervous because prom is coming or graduation and all eyes are on them. Other times it may be more chronic. They may be missing school 2 to 3 times or missing their first period. Those are all signs that this may be a little bit bigger than just that butterflies in their stomach. And getting them that support, or finding someone, even if somebody in the family they feel more comfortable talking to or talking about this. But if you're starting to see, this isn't my normal child, they're a little bit more withdrawn, probably a little more irritable, those are all signs as well.
All right. Lots of good information there during Mental Health Awareness Month. Thank you so much, Dr. Barreto.
Thank you for having me.
A new study finds that teenagers' brains actually aged rapidly during COVID-19, that lockdown era. The findings showing that teenage girls were more affected than teenage boys, potentially impacting their mental health and even their behavior. ABC's Rhiannon Alley with more.
A new study is revealing unusual changes in teenagers' brain development during the pandemic.
It's not that surprising to know that there are actual brain changes that happened during the pandemic, given everything that teens, especially teen girls, faced.
The study found COVID-era lockdowns ended up aging teenagers' brains faster than the usual rate, more than 4 years faster than usual in girls, compared to just over a year faster in boys.
The authors hypothesized that adolescent girls were affected more than boys because they may be more dependent on that social interaction and being able to connect with their friends.
Back in 2018, researchers began tracking brain changes in 160 people, ages 9 to 17. They found lockdowns contributed to an increase of anxiety, depression, and behavioral disorders, causing their brains to mature faster. The same type of accelerated brain aging has been documented in teens who've suffered severe trauma, stress, and neglect.
But it's important to note that these studies don't exactly tell us what the long-term effects are or if the process can be reversed or slowed down with the right type of emotional support moving forward.
All right, so we've got to talk more about this. We want to bring in ABC News medical contributor, Dr. Alok Patel. Dr. Patel, it's good to see you. You sort of explained for us in that story what happened, but how concerned should parents be about this new finding? Parents already being concerned about what happened to the kids during COVID, and can the negative impact here be reversed in any way?
Well, I think parents should be just more aware about the true impact that the stress of the pandemic, stress from all around us, that's had on those developing teen brains. What the study really does is it adds some physical evidence to what we already know about how sensitive teen brains are during those critical years and how fragile they really are. Now, the headline is alarming, but it's important for people out there to understand that our brains go through changes with age, with maturity. And so some of these changes are not necessarily bad on their own, but they can be accelerated with stress. So I don't think parents should really panic from the headline, but what they should be doing instead is really doing what they can to pay attention to the emotional well-being of their teens and their young kids.
Yeah, that's always great advice. I want to broaden out here, but stay with the effects of the lockdown. At what point do you think we're going to know? How long-term do we have to go out to figure out what the long-term effects are of the lockdown on children and adolescents?
Bill, I'm so glad you asked that question. You know, when you look at a study like this one, we have to remember that this is a relatively small study. So it's hard to really extrapolate and say that this changes in the brain is going to be permanent or have some type of widespread effect on every single teen. Every child truly is different. And every age has different types of potential setbacks that may have happened during lockdowns, during anxiety. And it's also hard to tell, Phil, if these effects are directly from the pandemic or from a lot more teens being on these things, social media, global events. What is important to know is that people should have a sense of developmental milestones for their child, for their age, and it might be a few years before we really truly understand the impact, but it's really important that you pay attention to your own individual child, support them, offer a non-judgment zone to hear their concerns, and if you need help, you reach out.
Yeah, instead of looking for specific data, just realizing that everybody has troubles coming out of it. So we just talk to our kids a little bit more about it.
Many of us,
Dr. Alok Patel, many of us. All right, thanks so much. Always good to see you.
Thank you.
Specifically for Black girls. Specifically for Black girls in our schools, that for a little while there, because there was no understanding around trauma, that they were being labeled as not being girls, and they were loud and they were fighting more, and helping to create that understanding that that's still a trauma response. That's that girl perceiving a threat, no matter what's going on in the environment, there's still a perceived threat, and they're reacting to it. They're trying to stay alive. They're trying to stay safe, and so that means that our staff, everyone in that environment has to be prepared to support that young person and understanding that although you are perceiving a threat, what are other ways that you can assess that threat? What are other ways that you can have a different reaction? What are the different choices that you get to make? And how do you want to show up in this world? And it takes a lot of just being able to build rapport, not judging, not saying, oh, you shouldn't have did that, you shouldn't have gotten in that fight, but really understanding like, okay, now that you are out of that moment, let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about how you want to show up, but not trying to address that when they're in the heat of that fight, because that's where they're in survival mode. They're not trying to understand like what's going on. So we're trying to get to them after and hopefully before, so that they can take that pause, so that they can walk away, so that they can reach out to other trusted adults. They can have more help-seeking behaviors that will help them make different decisions.
In tonight's Health Watch, we're looking at the mental health crisis among Americans' youth. A new study finds nearly 1 in 5 young people suffered from depression before the pandemic hit, and it's only gotten worse. CBS's Meg Oliver explains.
Focus on your exhale. If I open up to my parents about how I feel, it'll make them think that they failed.
18-year-old Emma Wanstall has learned it's okay to ask for help. The former cheerleader started treatment for her mental health in July.
It's good to feel emotions, but you just have to deal with them in the right way.
During the pandemic, Emma fell into a deep depression.
How bad did it get? It got to the point where I overdosed, and I was planning on going to bed that night and not waking up in the morning.
Suicide is the third leading cause of death among people aged 15 to 24 in the U.S. Since 2019, the number of teenage girls who have been suicidal has increased 50%.
Why is it getting worse?
It's the pressure of the return to normalcy. Now we're trying to get back to normal when we've all lost out on some skills.
Samantha Gigno is a family therapist at Newport Healthcare. She says parents should look for changes in behavior, isolating from friends, substance use, self-harm, or eating disorders.
Is it okay to talk to your child about suicide?
Yes, absolutely. That's a very big fear, right? If you name that for your adolescent, it will put the idea in their head, and that's not the case. So you want to ask your child, are you having thoughts of hurting yourself? Are you having thoughts of worthlessness or hopelessness? You can talk to me. If you can't, we'll get you the help that you need.
Emma is learning to cope through various therapies and now relies on boxing as an emotional outlet.
What do you want other kids to know who are suffering from depression or possibly thinking about suicide?
That you're not alone. There is a lot of people out there that are going through the same thing as you, and it's hard, but you have to face it head on.
Moving forward by taking the first step. Meg Oliver, CBS News, Bethlehem, Connecticut.
I never been somewhere where I had art hung up at and stuff, but I love to get out, to get to know more people and have a lot of people asking me a lot of questions.
I put blue for choices because I've been in a negative way so many times, and now I'm in that positive road because I'm starting a new beginning.
Kind of like right here, I have changing. It's kind of representing that I'm changing from being here in Lighthouse. I'm changing from what I used to be, this bad girl, popular, whatever, and to me.
Green for growing, because I don't even know. I want to grow in life and be something good and not always be in trouble. And I got orange for confused because I still got a whole bunch of questions and I don't know who to ask the questions to.
It's outcast. Yeah. Cause green was for, like abandoned.
My anger piece, it said did the impossible. Reason why I said did the impossible because every time I overcome my anger, I feel like I achieved something. Because like me growing up in the house with a bunch of angry people, it's something you can't overcome. Like, cause that's where I grew up at, in a hard place.
It makes me think optimistic because like, wow, these people really taking their time out to look at our stuff and stuff like that. So it made me feel really grateful.
It could be used as something to kind of basically express my emotions, because in the household or the streets and the life that I grew up in, it was irrelevant to tell your emotions, and it was very ignorant and stupid, and it wasn't really, something that you were supposed to do.
I don't really know. I think people just point fingers and say that I'm a criminal, but really there's deeper feelings and deeper things. We're not criminals. We just have a lot of things going on in our lifetime.
No matter where you came from, it's not your past, it's just your future. Everybody praying on a good future right now. Just do what you got to do, because everybody gonna make it someday.
Okay, fathers, that last video was incarcerated girls that use painting in art form to help them work through their issues and their mental health. So that was that very last video. When you heard the little girl talk about them being criminals, they were incarcerated young girls under the age of 18. Okay, fathers, the challenges of being a girl dad. Struggle is real. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The struggle is real. Fathers of daughters, girl dads, we have a lot on our plates, and it does not get easier. We just have to learn how to change with our daughters and make adjustments. Some of the best advice I ever got is when I was a juvenile probation officer. I got from a mother of 8 daughters. She pulled me into her office and she said, Ephraim, I want to talk to you. And I was like, yes, ma'am. So I went to this woman's office. Her and her husband, they had 8 daughters. She was older. She was about 65 maybe at the time. And she pulled me into her office and she said, Ephraim, I've been watching you, and you got your baby girls and you bring them to the office and you're going to be okay. She said, can I give you some advice? And I said, yes, ma'am, absolutely, please. She said the simplest thing to me. She said, as long as you change with your daughters, Ephraim, you will not have any issues or problems with them. And I looked at this woman, and then she looked at me and said, you can leave. And I was like, what the hell just happened, right? But what she was explaining to me is that as my daughters get older, I'm going to need to change with them. As long as I change with them, there won't be any problems with them. And she was 100% correct. I took that advice and I used it. And that was from a mother of 8 daughters. So I'm all about solutions, fathers. I don't care where the solutions come from, what ethnic group, what cultures. I'm all about solutions. All right, fathers, another successful live stream. Yes, sir. I live stream once a week, and this was a good one. All right, fathers, I want to share this information with you. And like I said, all the videos, all 13 of them are in the description. So feel free. And also, fathers, I encourage you to always do your own research. YouTube is an excellent source for resources, okay? All right, fathers. Mis amigos, hasta la próxima semana. Paz. All right, fathers, I'm out. Until next week's live stream, kiss them babies, love them babies. Show them you love them. Show them, fathers. Tell them you love them. Validate them. All right, fathers, we have to be at the forefront of our baby girls. I'm out. Peace.